My daughter-in-law told me to go live on the streets 5 days after we buried my husband. She stood in my living room, heels clicking on the hardwood I'd polished for 40 years, and said, "Now that he's gone, cry, pack your things, and go live on the streets." I just said, "Okay," and wrapped my fingers around the small brass key in my pocket, the one Daniel had pressed into my hand 3 weeks before he died. "Keep this safe, Maggie," he'd whispered. "Don't tell anyone." Vanessa expected me to scream, to beg. My son, Robert, stood behind her, staring at the floor, 42 years old and too weak to look his mother in the eye while his wife threw her out. "This house needs to be sold," Vanessa announced. "Daniel left everything to Robert. We need liquidity." Linda, my sister, chimed in from the couch about how good the market was, not to comfort me, just hovering for scraps. Upstairs, I found papers waiting on the bed. Voluntary transfer of property to Robert, already arranged by some bargain law firm Vanessa found. New locks on the door, my clothes already picked over. I could have refused. I could have fought. Instead, I signed. 3 steady signatures. Let them think I was helpless. Then I packed 1 suitcase, a few clothes, my Bible, my nursing shoes from 30 years at St. Vincent's, the quilt my mother made, our wedding photo. In my purse, a worn wallet, useless house keys, Daniel's brass key marked 447, and a business card. Donald P. Brennan, Estate Planning. 40 years of marriage, and I checked into a $1.67 a night motel off Route 119. Room 12 smelled like cigarettes and bleach. I lay on the bed listening to trucks on the highway and thought, they don't know about the key. The next morning, I called the number on the card. "This is Margaret Hayes, Daniel's widow. I think we need to talk." Mr. Brennan didn't sound surprised. "I've been waiting for your call. Bring the key, and don't tell anyone you're coming." His office was small, cluttered, nothing like the fancy firms Vanessa adored. He took one look at the key and nodded. "Your husband retained me for 32 years, he said. "He was careful and secretive." He slid a summary across the desk. I stared at the numbers, not understanding at first. Primary assets in an irrevocable trust. Sole beneficiary, me. Investment portfolio, offshore accounts, cash reserves, a penthouse at 785 Park Avenue. Estimated total value, $28 million. I'd spent decades clipping coupons and buying ground beef on sale. We drove a 2011 Honda. We lived in a modest Victorian. I could barely breathe. "Why didn't he tell me?" I whispered. "He tried," Brennan said gently. "You always told him you didn't care about money, that you trusted him to handle it. So he did, and he protected you from exactly this, your son and his wife." At Manhattan Trust, I opened the safe deposit box. Inside was the paperwork, a USB drive, and a sealed letter in Daniel's handwriting. He explained everything, the investments, the penthouse he bought for our second act, how he'd hidden it all so Vanessa couldn't sink her claws into it, how he'd always meant to show me but ran out of time. "You gave me 40 years of love," he wrote. "I gave you this. Be free." I cried for the first time since his funeral, alone in that cold vault. Back at the motel, Robert called. "Vanessa wanted my emerald ring, my mother's ring. She says it's family property." "No," I said simply. "You're being difficult," he snapped. Then came a text from Vanessa threatening legal action over the ring and hinting I was hiding assets. She had no idea how right she was, just not the way she thought. Mr. Brennan told me, "You've already won. Now stop being afraid of her. Buy something she cares about, then take it away." That's how, through a shell company, I became the new owner of the building where Robert and Vanessa rented their expensive apartment. All cash. Quick close. 30 days later, they received a formal notice to vacate. Vanessa called me, shrieking. "This is you, isn't it?" "I live in a motel, Vanessa," I said mildly. "I don't own anything." She hung up. I smiled for the first time in months. Then karma picked up speed. Robert lost his job when his biggest client went bankrupt. He called, panicked rent due, no income, Vanessa freaking out. He asked me for money. "No," I said, calm, final. For once, I let the consequences land where they belonged. Quietly, I bought a small house in Tarrytown, 3 bedrooms, old but solid. I called Robert. There's a house at 429 Willow Street. You can live there rent-free. What's the catch? One condition, I said. Vanessa doesn't come with you. He balked. She's my wife. Then you're both homeless. Your choice. Soon after, he called again, desperate. Vanessa claimed she was pregnant and threatened to leave with the baby if he didn't fix this. I'd been a nurse too long not to be suspicious. With Mr. Brennan's help, we arranged a blood test under the excuse of insurance paperwork. Vanessa showed up, smug and dramatic. The lab results arrived the next day. Not pregnant, never had been. Robert sobbed over the phone. She lied about everything. You leave her, I told him, today. Brennan has divorce papers ready. You sign them, you move into Willow Street, and you don't look back. He did. The divorce was ugly on paper, but weak in reality. Vanessa's cheap lawyers screamed about hidden assets and manipulative in-laws. Brennan buried them in proof that Robert had nothing but debt and unemployment. She walked away with a leased Audi, half the credit card bills, and no alimony. Meanwhile, I quietly sold the old house on Maple Avenue, the one Vanessa had stolen with that voluntary transfer. I donated every penny, $920,000, to the Nursing Scholarship Fund at St. Vincent's. I owed that place more than I owed any of them. Robert moved into the Terrytown house and started over. New job at a construction supply company, therapy, Sunday dinners. We talked about small, safe things. I watched him figure out how to be a grown man without Vanessa scripting his lines. 6 months later, he'd kept the job, paid his bills, and stayed honest with me. That's when I invited him to 785 Park Avenue. He walked into the penthouse wide-eyed. Whose place is this? Mine, I said. I handed him copies of Daniel's letter, the estate summary, and the key to Willow Street, this time in his name, free and clear. You had all this, he said hoarsely, and you lived in a motel? I needed to know who you were without money, I said, without Vanessa, without me rescuing you. Tears ran down his face. I don't deserve you. Probably not, I said, but you're trying, that's what matters. He asked about the rest of the fortune. That's mine, I said, for now, maybe forever. I haven't decided. You don't need it, Robert, you just needed to believe you could stand on your own. He hugged me like he hadn't since he was a little boy afraid of thunderstorms. I love you, Mom. I love you too. We stood at the window, looking out over Central Park, the city glowing beneath us. For the first time in my life, the future felt like something I could choose, not something that just happened to me. Now what? He asked. Now, I said, thinking of Daniel's letter, we figure it out together.